We're going to talk about that now. So presenting with me today is Brittany Boston, and she is our Associate Director for Equity and Outreach at the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support. And we have just a nice little few minutes together for you to talk about how we're going to up your recruitment strategies, tips and tricks, to talk about what we're going to do for ICAPS, IET programs, and also bridge programs. So we'll proceed through here. So what to expect in the next few minutes? Again, I said we'd have a 10-15 break. You know, if you know me, you know I'm a time stickler, so we're going to stick to that 10-15 break. But what we're going to do in the next few minutes is we're going to explore a bit of evidence-based practices. And I'm going to practice good presenting and turn on my camera there. Sorry, I was leaning back and enjoying my conversation with myself. We're also going to talk about strategies and tips to increase recruitment. And then through the next few minutes, I hope you nod your head, I hope you smile, and I hope you scratch down a note or two. I do encourage you, Kathy mentioned having that scratch pad, having that notebook with you as you're sitting in your home office or in your real office. Write down the things that you've learned, write down those things that we're putting out today, because there's a lot of great resources that we've developed for you over the next day and a half. In addition to that, again, if you have questions, let us know. And yes, this is recorded. I saw that in the chat a couple times. All these sessions are being recorded and will be available back on that same website that you came to for the registration. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So some fun tips for recruiting. First, get excited and challenge the status quo. So we are looking at probably one of the most challenging times in our nation's history, looking at all the issues that we have with COVID and many more fun things going on locally, regionally, and statewide. But I do challenge you. I see a couple faces like, really? Yes, they are. But I challenge you to get excited. I challenge you to get excited about recruiting because we in adult education, we in career and technical education, and we as this Transitions Academy, all the ICAPS, IET, and bridge programs, we're the solution. So get excited with all the things that are not going well. Adult education, career and technical education, and the ICAPS models are the solution. Get excited, challenge that status quo. You can't fix the problem with the same thinking that got you into the problem. Let me say that again for a second. You can't fix the problem with the same thinking that got you into the problem. We know students are out there. We know individuals are looking for aggressive, engaging, accelerated programs. We're the solution. I might ask if you could all say that to yourselves at home for a second. Say, I'm the solution. We're going to fix the problem. Sarah asks people to stand up sometimes. I won't make you all stand up, but I like the standing up idea. Last little point there is very important. Nothing changes, then nothing changes. If you are doing the same things that you did in 2019 and expecting them to work in the world of COVID, it's not going to work. I'm sorry, it's not. So accept it, move on, get excited, find the solution, because if nothing changes, then nothing changes. We are in a world of, I think the word fluid, my team loves to make fun of me because I use the word fluid all the time because I hear it literally in almost every meeting I'm on. The situation is fluid. So it is across the board, but we have to make change. We have to do things a little differently. We have to stop, pause, and think what's been working and what can we do differently? How can we make a change? So with that, let's get into some other fun tips. Actually, I take that back. We're going to now get into evidence-based practices. I'm going to follow my agenda and not go off board, and I'm going to hand this over to Brittany, and she's going to talk about our evidence-based practices.
Yes, good morning, everyone. As Amy said, I am Brittany Boston, and we'll touch on some evidence-based practices here. And for the record, this is not an exhaustive list by any means, but these are just a few tips and tricks that have been found to work and be beneficial to programs. So one of the big things is looking at, so let's start looking at our own internal bias first as educators, as instructors, really calling into question and taking sort of a look inward at maybe some of the bias that we hold and aren't quite aware of. And then being able to help to dispel those stereotypes that parents and potential learners even hold for themselves when it comes to their opportunities for college and for being a part of a program and entering into the workforce. and making sure that we're looking at that as we are recruiting and informing students about ICAPS IET programs and the opportunities that are available to them. And then when you're looking at that marketing piece, when you're using images and pictures of your programs, of your students, make sure that you're showing the students actually working. Everybody loves a post picture. I know I do not like my picture being taken when I'm off, taken off guard, but we want to make sure that we are showing the current students that we have engaging in the program and really highlighting the program and what it is that potential learners can gain from enrolling in our programs. And along the same lines, making sure you're including pictures with individuals in context. And so that also helps to sort of reduce those stereotypes, to show that, when we're talking, those non-traditional careers, when we're looking at, CTE and those special populations, we want to make sure that we are showing our students in action within our programs. And then building relationships with employers. This is key, especially for ICAPS IETs. We want to make sure that we are training a population of students to enter into the workforce and for those high demand jobs and having those skills that employers are looking for. And I have two screens here, so I apologize. I'm going to be bouncing back and forth. And then again, when we're looking at using those images for marketing, and when I say marketing, I mean online as well as printed materials. And especially now, our whole world is gone online. I feel like we've heard that phrase over and over again, but it's true. And so we want to use online marketing as well as printed materials and make sure that when we are representing our students and the students that we are recruiting, we're representing a wide range of individuals. We want to make sure that potential students can see themselves in our ICAPS IET programs. And so making sure that those images are reflective of that, they're diverse. And then providing services and recruitment campaigns that really draw students into the program rather than singling them out. And I'm going to make a little plug here for our super strategies that we have created specifically for career and technical education because they are for special populations under Perkins 5. But if you are an adult ed program, I would also encourage you to look at those because while the language is geared towards CTE, these are all strategies that can be used for all potential students and making sure that when we are promoting our services, when we are trying to recruit our students, that we're recruiting it across the board. We're providing, if we have services for students that are experiencing homelessness, we are promoting that to our entire student population. We're not singling out anyone or adding that stigma to anything. And then making sure we're using common language. I think we all know that we talk in acronyms and we have our own education, adult ed, CTE, ICAPS. I literally just spoke in letters there, language that a lot of people may not understand. So making sure that we are using common language that students, parents, employers are understanding, kind of the point we're trying to get across there. And then again, as I kind of touched on when you're recruiting, make sure you're using multiple forms of media. Social media is big right now. That is where a lot of our potential students are. They're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, they're on Instagram, all of the other ones that I'm not cool enough to know what they are. And so utilizing those multiple formats so that we are reaching a wide range of potential students. And then using gender inclusive language. Again, we are recruiting all students of all genders. And this is something that I've started with my own little boy by saying, it's firefighter, it's police officer. We are recruiting and being inclusive of all potential students. And then using promotional materials that feature photos and testimonials of current learners and graduates. Word of mouth, which Amy is going to touch on here, is huge. We want to hear those success stories from students. We want to hear students who have been through our programs and who are successful in the world of work now and the positive experiences that they have had within those programs.
So as we move into the success stories, I want to kind of just take a second, all of the evidence-based practices that we talked about are applicable to all students. So if you're looking at building a bridge program, if you're looking at just coming into an ICAPS IET program, think about how those strategies would work for you. What's important, and this next key is really, I think Whitney taught, actually, I know Whitney just said it. Success stories matter. Word of mouth marketing is critical and often overlooked as a part of recruitment. And I want you to think about that for a second. And some of you are sitting there thinking, okay, well, word of mouth, that's great, but we're all 6 feet apart, Amy. We're not really communicating word of mouth. Nay, nay, let's move to the next slide. What we're going to see is that word of mouth is not necessarily exactly what you're saying. So it's not me and Brittany yelling over cubes today to one another. What it is I want you to rethink word of mouth. I want you to think about the texts, the tweets, the posts, the shares, and all of the word of mouth communications that your program can do to market out to the system. I want you to think about who you listen to. Back to Brittany's point of self-reflection. If someone is asking you, to buy something for Christmas, or somebody's asking you to, what's the best vacuum cleaner now that I have a dog? You know, everyone has a COVID pet, chickens, guilty. Anyway, what is the best vacuum cleaner? You're going to ask your friends, right? You're going to look at Facebook, you're going to look at Instagram, you're going to say, okay, what's everyone saying? You're not going to possibly walk up to somebody in a store and say, hey, what do you think? Or you might call up your mom, friend, any of those individuals. But I want you, and I challenge you to think about that and what advice you go to for a purchase or for a Christmas present. And then also think those same mechanisms are used when you're communicating or looking at a program. If Brittany wanted to go and get another degree, or if I wanted to go back to school, I would go through those same mechanisms. What are the good programs out there? I would do my research. So don't underestimate what you're putting on your text, your tweets, your posts, and your shares, because those are really important. If you didn't see, just another plug, if you didn't see the series that we just did on recruitment, it's posted on our website. It's also posted on the adult education professional development website. And so I encourage you to check that out. And then we're going to talk about how we have another one coming up. But I want you to think about word of mouth marketing. The other fun thing with word of mouth is that a lot of people in the social media age are talking about the idea of clicks, collecting numbers. But I want you to think about connections, because connections are who's going to bring your students to the door. Connections with those individuals who hear about you through a text, a tweet, a post, or a share, and then they come and look at their program. So if they're coming and looking at their program, let's talk about how we can really up the game in making sure our programs are effective. We want to leverage new technology. Okay. Technology is changing daily. It's fluid. See, word of the day today. And what we're looking at is how can we leverage our technology? How can we find what works for your team and your program? Not everything is going to work for you, and there's going to be things that are going to be free for your institution, or free for you as a part of your institution, or free because they're free right now, like Zoom. Find what works for your team. Start small, but start somewhere. Some of you might be sitting out there saying, you know what, Amy, that's great, but I don't even have a Facebook page yet for my program. Okay, so start small, get a Facebook page. Start with post. Look at who your network is, build your network out. Again, we had some great programs talk about their strategies that they've used over the last few months and to really bolster their enrollment. And then engage with your potential students, engage with your current students. Ask your current students how they found out about your program. Ask your current students how they want to be communicated with. Ask your current students what works for them. And then also ask your current students what made them select and come into your program, and build off of those ideas. Don't just stop there though. Look at how you can encourage and recruit other students. So leveraging technology is a big key to really moving into this era of recruitment in the virtual realm. Follow up with your students. We talked about that just a second, but I want you to think about this. Have you emailed your students from last spring, or any of your non-completers? Have you followed up with those students? Have you checked in? We talk about leading with empathy across the board. It's COVID and everything needs to be led with empathy. But at the same time, lead with empathy and say, what can we do to help you? How can we improve your situation? How can we be of assistance? There's a lot of support in a community college. There's a lot of support in a ICAPS program. There's a lot of support in a bridge program that students might not be aware of. So reach out to those students. Call your students from last spring, and maybe if they've been successful, they know somebody else who does need help. A lot of situations are fluid, as I like to say. Call and text students to check in. Your faculty are doing this and doing a fantastic job. Be sure you're giving them the mechanisms by which to do that. So call with your students, contact with your students. It is not any different the need to have student contact. So the need that we had when they would come onto campus and see us, and we wanted to make those count, those nice little contacts. We wanted to see them when we saw them in the hall and say, hello, how are you? How was your day? Brittany, how have you been doing today? How's everything going? Sarah, are you feeling good? You're looking great, all of that. Those things can still happen in a virtual realm. And I think that's something that we kind of threw our hands up in the spring and said, oh, we don't have any contact with students because everybody's at home. Actually, now more than ever, they need us to have contact with them. So call your students, check in on your students, see how they're doing, push them along. There's some great examples, not to toot our own horn again, but go back to that series. There's some great examples of what our programs are doing, what you are all doing to really encourage recruitment and retention within your program. So follow up with your students. Follow up with social media. If you have a Facebook page, an Instagram account, a Twitter account, or any other mechanism of social media that, again, I'm older than Brittany, so I might not be aware of, I encourage you to be sure you're following up. If someone sends you a message on Facebook for your program, be sure you're following up with that message on Facebook. If someone's tweeting about your program, go out and follow up with that tweet on your program. If you don't have people designated to monitor your social media, get them. They need to be on there. They need to be part of their job every day, if not at least twice a day, if not more than that. Following up with your social media posts, seeing what people are saying about you and seeing if that's how they're going to reach your institution, your program, your college. Next slide. So your web page is your gateway to your program. It's no longer your front door. It's no longer how well you greet somebody when they walk in. It is your web page. And so a couple things I want you to think about with your program's web page. If I go to, so a couple things. If I come to your program's web page, am I going to know where to go? Is it intuitive? Is it accessible? Is it easy to navigate? Is it designed to be inviting for potential students? And then the other thing is, where's your web page housed? If you're at a community college, sometimes the ICAPS website might not be on the front page. If not, maybe it should be. Talk with your IT folks, find out where it is, see where you can get to that program. We want to also, this I stole from Joomla, so I want to give them credit, but things need to be user friendly. So is it mobile friendly? Is it accessible and loads quickly? Is it organized and easy to navigate? And is it compatible with popular browsers? Our students are very busy as we are. Our students are sitting at home thinking about things that they need. And if they come and look at our programs and they are sitting on their couch at 7 p.m. and they send a message via Facebook, or they reach out and have a text, or they do something and they don't have a response somewhat promptly, by the next morning at 8 a.m., they're thinking about something totally different. So we want our programs to be responsive. That's how you get that connection. That's how you build that recruitment. That's how you engage with your students. There are opportunities for you to set those up for us. So it's just a default. Like if you send an email to the ICAPS program at Joliet Junior College, you're going to have this response and it's going to say, thank you so much. We'll be back in touch with you. We're excited. Facebook, same thing. There is an auto response that you can set, or you can also go in and have a true response. But I really encourage you to think about, if someone is accessing your program, how are they being responded to and how quickly are they being responded to? I think we're good. And then, does your program have social media and a social media presence? I want you to think about this and think about the way in which your program does work with social media. One of the things that I want you to know, you're not alone. It's not like we're sitting up here at the state level, like I sit up straight, like I'm anywhere near Springfield. But anyway, sitting at the state level saying, you guys figure it out. That's not the mantra at all at the state level. ICCB is working tirelessly to support the program, support ICAPS IET programs, and support bridge programs. So one of the things that we're doing, which I don't have a slide for, but one of the things that we're doing is we have updated our program. We're in the process of updating that program directory. You've probably gotten an email about that. And it says, what are you doing with your adult education program? So that's going to help your bridge programs. That's going to help your ICAPS programs. In addition to that, there is an adult education hotline that does exist. And within that hotline, you get a text now. You can text the hotline. So that's exciting too. So we're taking steps. We're working to be supportive on both fronts to make sure that we have support for our programs within social media. In addition, ICCB has a Facebook page. If you didn't know, you should check it out, and your program might want to link to that. When we talk about linking to programs within social media, you also want to link to anybody who's on your business engagement, anybody who you work with within the community, any of those social organizations or community-based organizations that support your program. Those are the people who you want to be friends with on Facebook as a program. We'll go to the next one. So there are 3 E's for successful recruitment. And this is how we're going to wrap this up this morning. The first E is engage. I challenge you to take a second and think about, is your program engaging? Are you taking steps to engage with your students? Are you taking steps to make sure that people know that there are mechanisms by which to engage? And then when someone comes to your website, is the information there? Do they learn about your ICAPS IET opportunities? Do they learn about your bridge opportunities? Are they learning about what's going on in your program? And how do they find out that information? Is there a one-stop shop? Is there somewhere that someone can go to for answers? The next is equip. Do they have the right mechanisms, technology, access to get that information? So again, is your website a place where people can go to find stuff about ICAPS IET programs? Is your website a place where people can go to find out about your bridge programs? Not all students are going to come in as an ICAPS IET. Maybe they need a bridge program. Not all students are going to come in at, they're all over. We know that. So what I want you to do is think about, are you equipping them with the information they need to feel empowered? That third E. Do they have the information at their fingertips? Do they feel that you are responsive? Do they feel that the program is accessible and going to meet their needs? Because if we engage, we equip, and we empower, we are going to move our recruitment numbers. And so the next thing I want to share with you, oh, one more. I ask you to ensure, you can go to the next one, sorry, Brittany. I ask you to ensure that there's a clear place to go for answers. And whether that is the message on your Facebook page, the messenger, that there's somebody monitoring that, if there is a website for your program where people can go to answer questions or ask questions and there's someone monitoring that. So I'll use our own center as an example. If you email icsps@ilstu.edu, that goes to everybody on the team. And then we have set up a little protocol, if you will, as to who answers what questions. But if you email us, someone's going to respond to you. And most likely within a few minutes or hours, but definitely within 24 hours. So I ask you to ensure that there's a clear place to go for answers. Because again, let's go back to that person sitting on their couch at 7 p.m., looking for an adult ed program, looking for an ICAPS program, looking at something that's going to get them off their couch. And if they don't get a response, if they don't get somebody claiming back to them, calming back to them, talking back to them, responding, they're going to look for something else. And it can't be at 9 a.m. the next morning. It needs to be something that is in the moment now. They need to be directed to information that they can make decisions and be informed decisions in the moment. So ensure that there's a clear place to go for answers. Finally, the thing I want to talk to you about is that we have another series coming up, and this is going to be on engagement. And it's going to run the same way that the last series ran. We're going to have 15 minutes of evidence-based research, and then we're going to go into what local programs are doing around these areas. The first one's going to be November 10th, Taking the Time to Care. And we're going to talk about mentoring in office hours and the importance of mentoring in office hours in engaging with your students and retaining your students. Because as my good friend Bevan Gibson says, if you don't engage, you will not retain, and if you don't retain, you will not engage. And so we're going to focus on that for a minute, an hour that day. November 17th, we're going to talk about classroom strategies for being and staying connected. Today, we're going to talk about virtual learning communities. We're going to talk about showing your camera. See, Sarah has us showing our cameras, and virtual cohorts and how we can establish those and what technology we can use to establish those. And we're going to talk about that today, this afternoon, and then we're also going to talk about that on the 17th. And then on the 19th, we're going to talk about harnessing technology for engagement and using Google Flipchart, Google Classroom, Zoom, all of those fun things that all of our education individuals are using to really engage with our students. Flipchart is pretty cool. My kids use it all the time to show application of learning. So those are exciting, fun, and innovative ways in which you can harness your technology, not just engage with it, but harness it. So with that, I want to open the floor for questions. If there are any questions. And Kirsten has posted in there how to up your recruitment. There's a PDF there to download. So thank you for that, Kirsten.
This is Kathy. Can I say something?
Yes, please do.
I also want to kind of share with you the work that Amy's team has been working on with the ICCB staff to further help you guys recruit people. Again, you've been getting a lot of emails from us and surveys. We actually do stuff with the surveys, and the provider locator is being updated. As Amy mentioned, we hope to have that before December, mid-December. So what will happen with Amy's work and Todd Jorn's work, people will be able to find your program by searching the provider locator, find the types of bridge and IETs that you have so they know what their world is beyond simply stepping into just getting their high school equivalency. And they'll also be able to click on a form that will submit to your staff person. So they will be able to go from that provider locator to your contact, all within an ease of steps. So when we're talking about these models, we're using these best practices in what we're doing. And under Amy's leadership with ICCB, you should start seeing some more things happening there. We're also working on sharing that provider locator link. And Amy, if you could speak to that very quickly so that it becomes a place that our partner agencies can also find quickly. We're working on the best way to help you market and recruit for students.
So yes, thank you, Kathy. So first thing is it's so very important that you complete that survey and take the time to complete it thoughtfully and intentionally, because we are asking those questions, not for just your college, if you're housed at a college, not for just your college website, but your adult education website. So that's really important. And if you have an ICAPS website, we're asking for those things. Where do we go for that information? In addition to that, what we're working with is looking at our core partners, looking at the spirit of collaboration and coordination. And we're working, so if you go on to WorkNet and it says, adult education, right now it kind of goes to an interesting provider list. And what we want to do is be able to direct them to your programs. So with the updating of the program directory and with the updating of the information on WorkNet, we're going to really hopefully see an increase in individuals who are getting the information they need. But we want it to be we want it to be more instantaneous than it currently is. So we want to direct people, as Kathy said, directly to your program. So that's why that survey is so very important, because we want to be sure that you're able to see those students and then allow you to have that opportunity to respond to them and allow you to have that opportunity to answer those questions. So it's going to be exciting. We're hoping to have that ready by December and moving that forward. There was a question in the chat about how do we register for the engagement series. Information will be coming out this afternoon. So we will be sending that out. All those are built and we'll just get those out today. We wanted to be able to tell you about them and then we'll be sending them out. And any other questions?
Amy, this is Whitney. I just wanted to echo the fact that the point you were making around success stories and sharing those individual stories of students and their success. You are working on a project with us to create student success stories. We received, I think, almost 50 student success stories from the colleges, but this is obviously something we can work with many of the community-based organizations that are participating today. And we have their story, we have their picture, we have the programs, we have their sort of before and after, what they were doing before, their testimonial, if you will. And those are really powerful, right? Those are what pull on the heartstrings of people. And so, as communities are thinking about, and as potential students are thinking about, their next step, oftentimes, speaking specifically for colleges, they still see college students as those traditional students. They're afraid to go to the college because they see it as those 18 to 24-year-old students, and they feel that they may be out of place, right? And we know that community colleges serve an average age of around a student who is 30, but really we see ages of student up to 65, and pretty commonly actually. So just kind of reiterating that, that the community college is for adults and is for anyone, right? Open access mission. And so just kind of driving that point home that these students who are succeeding are just like them and they can succeed too. I think that's a really powerful tool. And so we're hoping to get those student success stories out, and you can, utilize them, and you can share them, or, use a similar template to create your own. I mean, that's what's really important, is being able to pull those local examples.
Whitney, thank you for bringing those up, because that really speaks to sharing your local stories. And the state has done a phenomenal job, again, of recruiting those stories, developing those stories, and we're going to have those ready for you again around December. And Brittany can speak to exactly how many, because she's got that task of making them look gorgeous and editing. But at the same time, it really shows and demonstrates the point of share your success stories, share your effective practices. That is what humanizes these programs. That is what makes them look real and attainable. And one of the things that we want to be sure that we're doing is allowing our students, and Brittany spoke about this in the evidence-based practices, allowing our students to dispel those stereotypes and see themselves in the programs. So if you are able to put students in the pictures and use your own students in those pictures, but also share your success stories, and then that will help dispel those stereotypes, because there are a lot of, well, stereotypes around whether or not they feel they fit into a college. And community colleges are all about access, and they are all about upskilling and retraining and being there to be the solution to those issues. And I really encourage you to, again, challenge the quota, challenge the norm, and really put yourselves out there as the solution to the issues that are occurring right now due to COVID.
Amy, could I just, sorry to interrupt, but
No, you're fine.
is it still possible for programs to submit more success stories if they have some that they would like to be a part of the project that you outlined?
Whitney?
Yes, keep them coming.
And
Okay.
so then Whitney, what would be the best way for programs to continue to submit those?
We can post, I don't know if I'm kind of thinking on the spot here. We can post the template that we created maybe on this session's part of the Transitions Academy website, right? We have some documents. We can post the template and we can include the instructions there. So go back to the Transitions Academy website, and under this session, maybe we'll post the template with the instructions. Does that work?
We can do that, yes. And then, Brittany, someone asked if you could speak to how many there are.
Yeah, so we had, and I say we because it's a team effort. I am more involved in the graphic design side of the house for it, but there are 13 colleges, I believe, that participated with, I want to say, over 30 students who provided their story, their success story. And it is all different programs, and it is all across the state of Illinois. So from the northern part of Illinois all the way down to the southern part of Illinois, we have, smaller colleges, larger community colleges. So it's a great representation of the CTE system across Illinois. And yeah, we're in the process of really fine-tuning those and putting them in a format that, really highlights the stories, the students, the program. So I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be great. And maybe we can continue this and have a part 2, part 3, and so on and so forth. Because again, as we've all kind of been echoing and saying, word of mouth, and however that is, whether it's through actually physically telling their story or sharing it on a social media platform, your students are your best recruiters, because being able to see the program in action and tell their experience and how it has helped them, the supports and services that they were able to utilize while in that program that they didn't know existed, the employment that they received after the fact, the way that it has impacted their lives is the best recruitment tool you could ever utilize.
And even though we're speaking directly about the CTE success story campaign that we're sort of putting on. This is obviously something you can utilize in a non-CTE space. So thinking about workforce development, thinking about the community-based organizations who are on the call today, right? You all have competitors, right, that are doing this work a lot in the for-profit area, but so you are competing, and I think it's really important that we are providing this voice and these success stories so that students are able to access the best and the most affordable programs, because we know that those for-profit programs have a lot of marketing and they are really getting our students. They aren't seeing the enrollment decreases like we are. And so being able to really amplify the successes that we have is something that we need to do, and we don't often do that.
Well, and I commend ICCB for having the forethought to start this process last year, because now it really will be most beneficial to the programs, as we are in a unique situation that we never expected to find ourselves in last year at this time. This work also builds out of the Career Pathway Compendium, which we have showcased both ICAPS and IET programs and bridge programs in the Career Pathway Compendium on how those programs are successful. And those are all also available on the website. As we're wrapping up, and we can go to the next slide on our wrap up, there are a couple questions. One is that that funding's always an issue. Do you have advice or ideas about carving out time for personnel to promote or respond to social media? I think you need to think about, and again, I'll answer it in this way. So for our team, we used to spend a lot of time on in-person registration. We used to spend a lot of time on the things that were done in person. And now those same individuals are retrained and responding to those things that we need them to respond to virtually. So I don't know that it's really a funding issue. It's more of are the people that are in your team being best utilized in the new world that we have found ourselves in? So, and I'll just use my own team as an example. So Martha Smith, who is a phenomenal employee, does a great job. She was our front face at running registration and in-person registration. We have not had an in-person registration since like right around IASA for many of you. And we're not going to have another one till maybe July. So her responsibilities have changed. Her job description has changed, and what she's doing has changed. But I would look within your own team and look within your own individuals and look at strengths. We also have somebody and have had somebody who is our online marketing coordinator, and that's Kirsten, who's on with us today, and you'll see her on and off in different places. And she, I don't think when she started March 2nd, realized the breadth of her scope of work or the breadth of her job would be quite as large as it is, because we did go virtual on March 13th. So she had a good 10 days of old school employment, I guess is what you call it now. But I don't think you should make it a funding issue. I think you should make it let's make this a priority and who can help out on our team issue, because there are a lot of things that everyone used to do in person that no one is able to do in person. Think about travel time and processing travel. No one's doing that anymore. So what can we do to use those skills and redirect them in a way that they can respond and be responsive to our programs and really help us up our recruitment? With that, it is 10:10, and I like ending in time and starting on time. So we do have a planned break now. Take a minute, check on your kids, refresh your drink, check your email, let your pet out. But we need to be back. So I want you to be back at 11 o'clock. We're going to learn about overcoming barriers and promising practices from experienced programs. So the way we've set this up is we've heard from the state of the state, and now we heard what are the evidence-based practices? What is the research telling us? And on a larger scale, now we're going to hear about overcoming barriers and what are those promising practices that experienced programs have encountered and done and seen, and you're going to hear from your peers, which is always so very important. So with that, are there any other closing comments from Kathy, Sarah, Whitney, Brittany?
So I do want to add, we will be in this same Zoom room when we come back at 11. And so that can either be accessed through the agenda on the website, the link is there as well, or if you want to make sure to mute yourself and turn off your camera and just stay in this room, you're welcome to do that also. But we will be back into this Zoom room at 11.
Thank you all so much.